Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB.
Yes.
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome aboard. Welcome into this Monday edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Appreciate you being with us here on this January 22nd day. It's still cold outside. I don't think it's quite as bad as
this is the beginning of the warm-up, Jimbo. We talked about 7 or 8 straight days of below freezing temperatures, and I think tomorrow begins the true warm-up, if you want to call it, where you get to the 40s and 50s, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing to look at that forecast, and by Wednesday, the 42 is just beautiful because the low is only 30 something, but the next day 52 and the low is 49. It's like, get out of here with that. It's awesome.
Isn't it crazy how excited we get for 40s and 50s at this time of year? Whenever in the fall, whenever things are just getting cooled down, people think that's cold in September.
It's balmy, baby. It's balmy. But yeah, your body gets used to it. And I'm certainly going to be very happily used to those 50-degree temperatures when they roll around. There's no doubt about that. And going to be sitting in there for a minute, but they also look like they're bringing a little rain with them. So that's okay. But Thursday, a little sun, 51 and sun both days, on Friday as well, 53. Crazy. Who's not going to take that all day? Twice on Sunday. So how'd your weekend? How did everything go? Hope you had a good one. Wasn't great for Indiana on Friday as they traveled up to Wisconsin and took their normal loss and came back home. We're looking forward to having Greg Rakestraw with us today as well, and joining us right on cue from Indiana Sports ISC Sports Network. Greg, sir, how are you?
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I am just happy, as I was saying. We're looking at this forecast, so I'm happy as I can be. I see a number that starts with a 5, and it has another number behind it, so I'm cool with that.
We've got one kind of maybe nasty overnight in terms of some ice from kind of these points north, but it will quickly melt, and you're going to feel like Seattle this week, Jim. Grain in the 50s and raining the entire week.
Hey, I'll take it, baby. I'll make my own coffee. I won't have to worry about getting Seattle coffee. I'll just make my own, but I'll be quite happy with that. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Weekend was busy. I didn't see a lot of competitive basketball games. I had Carmel beating Pike by 30. I had Westfield beating Tri-West by 41. I had IUPUI getting beat by 17. But one of the more fun things I get to do every year, and I get to do it twice, really. Now that we do these semi-state pairing shows, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, but this is doing the basketball pairing show. So last night was the girls' version of the basketball pairing show. And now because of social media, we'll fly team pictures there on the show and get to see everybody hanging out. And last year, and this will resonate with you, one of the Jeffersonville teams had a get-together at one of the establishments on the river. You could see the Ohio River in the background. So this year, the Mechaniqua team, and I hope I get the name of the lake right. Lake Manitou, I believe, is how it's pronounced. Maybe this wasn't the safest thing. They were literally standing on the frozen lake to get their team picture on the show. The Valparaiso girls were in like the school pool. I don't think that was a training session since it was a Sunday, but that's where they decided to watch the pairing show was from the pool. So we're getting some serious creativity with these team pictures. I like this.
Well, it's funny you say that because we were just talking about this last week, and you may have already been, I don't know, you probably weren't gone. Greg's from Southern Indiana as well as I am, grew up there. I remember standing on the Ohio River one time. I think it was 77 or 78. I can't remember.
Right.
but literally standing on the Ohio River, which I was still scared to death, and I was holding on to a rail of some sort, but I still did it, and I'm like, okay, I can say I did it, and that was it. But that was wild.
This is the difference in what I assume is about a 5 or 6 year age gap between us. So I was around in 77 and 78. I was born on the next to last day of 1976. So I grew up hearing the stories of the blizzard of 78 and not having school for a month. I'm sorry. Not having school for a month, heard those legends growing up. And I have seen pictures of people standing on the Ohio River. I think I would be like you. It's one of those things, kind of like skydiving. I'm sure it looks cool. I'm not going to take the chance. We're good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was right on the edge holding onto a rail, and I was still scared to death. But it's something I never forgot, but has nothing to do with our area of sports that are going on, but it's just a nice little side story. But the sports do keep rolling on, man, and getting closer and closer to tournament play. As you just mentioned, the ladies getting their tournament draw, and the men's coming up, therefore, afterwards.
Correct. So that the boys tournament draw will be on February the 18th. The girls sectional starts next Tuesday on January the 30th. The boys state tournament starts on February the 27th. And just a quick reminder, there is a 1 week gap like we had during the year after COVID in 2021. There's an extra week in between the semi-state and state finals. And the reason being is that the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament are going to be in Indianapolis that weekend. So we will have boys sectional finals March 2nd, regionals the 9th, semi-state the 16th, but the actual state finals will not take place until Saturday, March 30th.
And you got some favorites heading into this?
You know, on the boys' side, I think this is as wide open as it has been in virtually every class. There's a pair of unbeaten teams at the top in terms of the Indianapolis area, Lawrence North and Fishers. Westfield fell from the ranks of the unbeaten last week. They're good. And again, they bounced back to beat Tri-West. They had kind of a scheduling quirk last week. They had to make up a game that they had canceled because of a number of illnesses back in mid-December. And so Westfield played Wednesday night, Friday night, and then played again on Saturday night. And it was the Friday night game in the middle. It was the trap game that kind of got them. But I do think LN and Fishers in 4A, I do think they're the best two teams. They play each other February the 13th at Fishers. They are in opposite halves of the draw, even though they are neighboring schools, because the line that runs through them is the Marion County, Hamilton County line. The Hamilton County schools go north. The Marion County schools go south in the draw. So it is certainly possible those two teams could see each other February the 13th, play again March 30th. I think 3A is remarkably wide open. I think 1A is wide open. Evansville Christian probably should be the favorite because of having a player like Josiah Dunham. And there are several good teams in 2A, but again, as long as Jack Benner's healthy, I'm not sure there's anybody that can match Brownstown Central. Again, that's on the boys' side.
And the great thing is Indiana Sports, ISB Sports Network, you guys get to broadcast a lot of these games, right?
Correct. And so, you know, we do 40 games a year on my NDTV. We do another 75 or 80 that are not television games. We are fortunate enough that the folks at IHSA ATV have us produce a good number of the semi-state locations for the girls and the boys, starting to get those lined up. Those will get announced, kind of week of it as they happen. But no, my schedule thins down a little bit just because, you know, this is the last week of girls' regular season play. But still, I'll have high school basketball every weekend, with the exception of March 23rd and 24th. I'll have it every weekend through the end of the month of March.
Man, I bet you're looking so forward to the end of March.
Well, I love my job. I do enjoy some downtime. I actually, Jim, my 25th wedding anniversary is in May, but we usually celebrate it like late March, just because that's when I can actually get away for a little bit. So yes, there might be a Monday where I beg off the show because I might be on a beach on Pacific time somewhere. Let's put it that way.
We would be jealous of you. Don't worry about that. We'll send you some extra. We'll have to send you some money for some Mai Tais.
I'm not going to turn that down, Jim. I'm not above donation and charity. I'm perfectly fine with that.
We will absolutely do that. So what is up next for you?
So Wednesday, I get to see Lawrence North, again, unbeaten, Marion County champs. They take on a very good New Pal team. That'll be Wednesday night. Got a pair of IUPUI games this week on Thursday and Sunday. And then on Friday night, I will see Warren Central and North Central. Both teams in the same sectional. It's actually a girl-boy doubleheader. I don't think either of the girls will factor in the sectional title. The boys wouldn't be the favorites, but they're also going to be very tough outs. For example, North Central and LN, and this is common, played each other twice in the span of 8 days. North Central beaten soundly by LN in the Marion County tournament last Friday, nearly beat them this past Friday. LN scored late to beat them 62-60. So North Central's a solid team. Now that Chris Byers is back at Warren Central, they're a very tough team to beat, even though LC got them on Friday night. So, just your average week for me, 5 basketball games and 2 radio shows. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely. And for those of you folks that are all over the place, this is how you can stay connected to whether it's whatever part of the state of Indiana you like. That sports usually makes its way over to ISC, whether it's Kent from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, Fred from Easton, Pennsylvania. Let's see, Julia from Indy, John from Cincinnati, John W. from Southern Brown County, Mike Shinnefield from Southern Wabash County, Heath from Danville. Man, I could go down the line. You guys are awesome. But that's how you stay in contact. ISC Sports Network, great network like that to keep you locked in addition to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, of course. But these are the ways you guys around the country and wherever you might be, or Fozan, who listens from Amman, Jordan. Man, this is how you guys can stay in touch with things. Right,
and I greatly appreciate. I greatly appreciate that, my friend. Always appreciate the kind words and the plug on the show.
Absolutely, that's what we'd like to see, man. Spread the wealth, the wealth of getting to see this thing, because there's not many places, not many states that has something like this. To be honest with you, it's kind of unique.
Very, very fortunate that, Kyle Nenrip and I will talk about this, that we get to be based in Indianapolis, but do so much of what we do with high school sports. And it is because while there is great passion for individual teams, there is simply great passion for high school sports in our state. And I'm very lucky that I get to make a good living doing something that I love. And a big part of that is high school and small college sports coverage.
And I'm glad you mentioned Kyle Nedrip, even though I'm a moron and I had it written down in red on my notepad here this morning. I'm still an idiot. Greg is the 2023 Indiana Sportscaster of the Year. Kyle, the sports writer, we'll brag on him on Wednesday when he joins us. But I damn near forgot to mention Greg is the Sportscaster of the Year, unseating Don Fischer. They should give you 2 awards for that.
No, and I know Fish is coming up next, and so I'll say this: I immediately got a text from Don congratulating me. Given the group in which I was nominated with, I was just so honored to be recognized and tremendously lucky to win. There are a couple of different organizations that give Sportscaster of the Year honors. There's the Indiana-based group, the Indiana Sports Writers and Sportscasters Association, and their yearly awards actually could go out as soon as today. I know that because I'm on the board. The award that I received that was made public last Tuesday is from the National Sports Media Association. So I've been lucky enough now to win from both. And the guys at the National Sports Media Association know what they're doing, not because they just named me or Kyle as award winners, but their banquet in North Carolina every year is at the end of June or early July, where in theory, people actually have some time off unless you're doing a baseball team as a play-by-play guy. So I actually think there's going to be a little trip to the national banquet I get to make coming up at the end of June and July, and I am greatly looking forward to it. And I am so thankful for the kind words I have received for the last 5 or 6 days. It's very much been a blessing, getting a lot of kudos and plaudits from folks over the last week. But Jim, as you well know, my ultimate reward is I get to do something I love for a living. I basically get paid to go to ball games for a living. Life's pretty good.
Well, it's well-deserved, and we congratulate you, sir, and look forward to it, man. We'll talk to you again next week as tournament action begins to stir up.
All right, sounds good, my friend. Have a great week.
Thank you, sir. Greg Rakestraw joining us from ISC Sports Network, your 2023 Indiana Sportscaster of the Year. Up next, he is Sportscaster of the Year about 200 times, I think. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joined us right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Donald J. Fischer.
Donald J.
Yeah, I just joke. Donald, they always say Donald J. Trump. I'm just kidding. There's no relation there, people. It's just funny. I was just being funny.
Well,
Donald J. No one named Donald J. can be called Donald J. anymore.
I have people call me the Donald because they like to trump me.
I would call you the Don.
Yeah, I'd call me a dumbass sometimes.
No, that's my name all the time for me. Every day. Well, it's not quite golf weather next week, but getting close. Man, it's going to be teasing you.
Well, trust me, right now I'd rather be playing golf.
Imagine.
It's not been a fun month.
And it's not expected to get better anytime immediately soon.
Well, I don't know that it's going to this year with this group. You know what? I mean, it's not good. It's just not good. And I don't want to I don't want to be that negative on the show, but not feeling it, if you know what I mean.
Nope. Trust me, it's palpable. Even when I try to that's a job, trying to stay not negative. It's like not trying to be negative, but here's the truth.
Right.
It's like, what do you want me to do? I can't sit here and lie.
You have to be objective, and you try to be professionally objective, and that's about the best you can do. You don't want to criticize to the point where you're labeling people, but at the same time, I don't know. This team is just not coalesced, and that's the biggest issue.
Yep. I had great practice going through the Little Rhodey tenure, so that the Archie Miller years, that if you could learn how to do it then, it was like, whoo, that one was rough. So you make it through that one, you kind of learn, all right, this is how I got to do this. I can't. He was hard not to be negative on.
Well, you got to think about the Tom Crean era when he first got here. Think about that era.
Oh,
6 wins, 12, 12 wins, and then all of a sudden it takes off. But it took 3 years of struggle to finally find itself,
Here we go.
Chop Shock Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back on this Monday. I hope you are rested from the weekend and ready for a little warmer weather. I don't think it's going to be quite warm enough for our next friend, Don Fischer, to go out and play golf, but it has to be a reprieve from all of this frozen tundra. Don Fischer, how are you, sir?
I'm good, and I wish I was in Florida this week since we have 7 days in between ball games. So that would have been a nice trip. I didn't think about it, and that's pretty stupid on my part.
Yeah, you and me both, because the Montverde has a tournament coming up, and I've been down to that. So I'm like, boy, that would have been a great excuse to use to go down there. So unfortunately, I was not smart enough either. Indiana on the hardwood last Friday night up in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where they have not had luck since Moby Dick was a minnow, as the one Bob Knight would say. And they haven't won there since Bob Knight won there. And so that tells you how long that has been. But
25 years.
Has 25 years. I mean, a quarter of a century. And that's mind-boggling. Indiana still leads this series by like 17 or 18 games, but it's still mind-boggling that this period can happen. It's just not, it's not fathomable in my brain.
Well, I think here's the thing. And if you think about it being not fathomable for Indiana fans like yourself, think about what Wisconsin felt like when Bob Knight was the coach at Indiana. And
they couldn't beat him.
The Hoosiers won 48 and lost 6 in the Bob Knight era to Wisconsin. Now 48-6. Right now it is what? I think Indiana's got 10 wins against Wisconsin since 2000, since Knight was let go. They've got 10 wins against Wisconsin and 32 defeats. So it kind of tells you the worm has turned, so to speak, although not as dramatically as when Coach Knight was here.
Wow, that number really puts it in perspective. I knew that he didn't lose to him, and he had beaten him like 31 straight times, but 48-6 is, whoo, that puts it in perspective. Man, and Indiana's season is really coming into perspective for even for those that are the most ardent of fans. They have to understand that Indiana is in the midst of a really bad position, and it doesn't look to get better as they have to go on the road now to play an Illinois team that has played well with or without Terrence Shannon Jr., right. But now they're going to have him back.
Well, he played in the ball game, I think, over the weekend, and I think he came off the bench, but he'll be back in the starting lineup by the time we play him, I'm sure. And they're playing really well. That kid, the Harmon kid, played terrific for them this past week. It's going to be an incredibly difficult challenge for Indiana. But the good news is Indiana does have an 8 days between ball games. They've got a chance to start working on this team. And I think probably the most important factor to work on at this juncture is the mindset of this ball club. They have got to find a way to get back to feeling good about themselves. That doesn't happen without wins, of course, but at least they've got time to sit there, look in the mirror, reflect a little bit on what's been happening, and try to pull this thing together. And hopefully they've got a couple of guys leadership-wise in this team that can help that happen. I know the coaching staff is pulling their hair out right now, trying to figure out what to do with this ball club in the sense of how do we get these guys to play harder? How do we get these guys to play better? And how do we get these guys to keep from making silly mistakes?
Yeah, and I don't know because I'm not in practice. I don't spend the time directly with these guys as the coaching staff does. Is it where that disconnect lies? Is it the individuals that just don't have that? We've talked on here, and you've mentioned guys that were gym rats that just almost don't exist anymore, and that's not something you can coach. You either are that or you're not. You either are like a sponge and want to do those things or don't. And I don't know that exists. And there's a lot of pulls on these guys now with their social media and this and that and the other thing. It's just not the same players it used to be for the most part.
Well, that part of it's true, but everybody else has got players too, and those guys figure it out. And this is a ball club that hasn't figured it out yet, and that's, to me, that's a leadership issue within your team. It's not the coaching staff. Players have to want to do the right things. They have to want to be better. They have to want to work. They have to be motivated to get the job done and to get to practice and to bust their tail and to figure out what's wrong when things are going astray. And right now we're going to find out if this team has that kind of mindset. And I think this is a great opportunity to figure that out and to find out the guys that really want to help this ball club and the guys that don't, if that's in fact the case, because this team looks like they're discombobulated, or they're not playing. I don't want to say that they're selfish. I don't see that. I don't see a selfishness on this team, like a guy's just playing for himself. But there's something missing. There's something missing with this ball club. I don't know what it is, and I know that Mike Woodson and his staff are trying to figure it out. But at this juncture, I think it's on the players. I think the players have to figure this thing out and decide to once again coalesce, get together, and become the kind of team that they're capable of being, because they have enough talent to be good. They have enough talent. They're not going to win every ball game. Nobody does anymore. But they have enough talent to compete if they want to compete. And right now, I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to get to talk to a lot of guys. Obviously, I didn't play at this level. I wasn't there, but I talked to, whether it's Todd Leary or Brian Evans or whomever, and they talked about it didn't matter. The entire team was holding each other accountable. I mean, if it could be one guy in this minute, and the next minute it's somebody else holding him accountable, but there just doesn't seem that team-wide accountability.
Well, and again, this is on the players. It truly is on the players. Their mindset is the key to this ball club turning things around. If it's the right mindset, they'll get it turned around. They'll start competing. They'll start winning a ball game or two that they probably shouldn't be expected to win, because you can do that when you've got the right mindset, when you believe in your team and you believe in your teammates. Because right now, I don't think that these guys don't like each other. I don't see that. I watch them on the airplane when we're flying, when we go to ball games and that kind of stuff. There's great interaction with these young men. But right now it's not happening on the floor. That's where it's got to happen. And I know Mike Woodson and his staff are frantically trying to get this thing turned around, to get these guys to understand that. And that's why I do think that this 8 days between ball games gives them an opportunity to kind of get some of this thing straightened out.
And I don't know what the mindset of a player is, but I'm wondering if they feel like there are going to be consequences of actions. We've seen what has happened with whether it's been Xavier or Mackenzie Mbako, and now here of late it was CJ getting booted from a game from not something, and I told Todd in the postgame show, I go, 10, 15 years ago, that doesn't even get called. That's just a nothing thing, but that's not 10, 15 years ago. It's today where, for one thing, there's 800 cameras watching a game. Yeah. You're getting away with absolutely nothing. And, they've got every rule with, above the shoulder and this and that and everything. You just can't do it. And I don't understand the inability to know that there are just certain things you just can't do, and they do them anyway.
Right. I think, and concerning that situation, and I know I get a headline of the paper about my statement, and I probably should have, said it differently, because look, you can't do what Xavier Johnson did in the Rutgers game. What you did in the game against Wisconsin as CJ Gunn, he got baited. And yes. Look, you know what, CJ, you can't do that. That's an emotional thing, or that's responding to something somebody does, and you're going to get caught, and you did it right in front of Wisconsin's bench. I mean, that's just silly on your part. But so these guys have to understand they're not going to get away with that kind of stuff. It's just not going to happen. And if it does happen and they try to do it again, they'll get caught the second time. So you got to be smart. And you just got to use your head in these situations. And maybe the other guy did something to you, but it's always the guy that reacts to it that gets caught. Understand that. Have that in your mentality to do. So hopefully, I'm sure these guys have learned from that. But at the same time, now it's a little bit too late. And you've had 2 situations like that occur within the last 2 weeks. That just can't happen. And Indiana has rarely ever, I think there's only been one other player at Indiana that's ever been kicked out of a game. And that happened in the first year Tom Crean was here, or the second year. I can't remember which. I don't want to bring up the young man's name because that's not to be done now. But there's only one other player that's ever been kicked out of a ball game prior to this season in my 50-plus years of being at Indiana. And My frustration at that level led me to my comment, which got viral attention all up and down social media. That's another reason I'm not on social media.
I'm just getting ready to say you're a smart man.
Well, I'm not smart when I say something on the air, just as stupid as being on social media. So,
you know what? That's just something for people to grab is all it is. As a matter of fact, it's not something that I think that I mentioned and I did not retweet that. And I think a lot of people in the media didn't. It's just certain people look for things to jump on, and that's one of them.
Right. Well, people were trying to take it that I was saying this about the whole team. Right. I was embarrassed for our whole team. I was embarrassed for our team that these guys did that. I didn't explain it that way. And now, of course, it goes viral and it looks like I'm disparaging the team and the program and everything else. And that's not the case.
Oh, trust me. When I got to ask my question at Curt Cignetti's opening football or press conference, I was asking him about dealing with NIL, and I did not differentiate dealing with NIL at the Big Ten level against Ohio State and Michigan versus being at James Madison. And he took that as an opportunity to boom, get a Cignetti stamp on that one. So I know exactly what you mean. It's easy for that to happen, but it also shows that these guys are not. I'm like, where's your head, man? You just can't do certain things in a damn game, and if you are, then where is your head? Where is your mental mindset right now?
Right, and you know, from a coaching perspective. Woody has to figure out what do I do about this, and to the best of his ability. And he's got so many things on his plate in regard to these players right now, and trying to get this thing turned around. That it's such a. I mean, that's why you get paid the big bucks, I guess, because you're getting millions of dollars to coach basketball. And that's your responsibility. But sometimes you're dealing with 19, 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old guys that just make mistakes like all college athletes and college players and college students do. And it's a struggle, to say the least. And your hands as a coach at the college level are in the palms of players who can do something really stupid, and then you're in trouble. And it's because you're dealing with that youth and that immaturity.
And that all leads to what is going on the court right now with this Indiana team. Sure. And it's not, and admittedly, it's not good. And it doesn't look to get a whole lot better as the season goes on. And that means missing the NCAA tournament. And that obviously people fans are not happy. They're going crazy on social media. We talk about it. We have to. It's a topic that can't be ignored. Right. But that's where we are right now. And that's not a good place for Indiana basketball either. They really shouldn't be in this position, but they are.
No question. And that's why I think, again, this week is special in the sense of giving Indiana an opportunity to maybe take a deep breath, take a look in the mirror, figure this thing out, figure out what you want to do, and work on the things that you think you have to change to make this basketball team successful as the season progresses.
Yep, this is absolutely the time for them to do that, Don. You're back at the Chop Shop tonight, right?
Right. Yeah, we're back with our first live show since December 18th. So it's been over a month since we've had a live show there, but we did have a tape show last week. Woody did the first half of the show. Curt Cignetti, the new football coach for Indiana University, did the second half of the show. It was a great show. And obviously we're really excited about Coach Cignetti. I think he's going to be special at this school. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
I loved his talk about getting rid of the softness.
Exactly.
Make sure you tune in and check out Don and the rest of the crew tonight for Inside Indiana Basketball at the Chop Shop. I believe that's at 7:00. So look forward to it, sir.
7:05, and the ladies will be there tonight too. They'll be on with Terry Moore at 6:30. So
coming off of a big win over Purdue.
Absolutely.
And Tara Vanderveer, who I'm just became the all-time winningest coach in NCAA history, passing Mike Krzyzewski with 1,203 wins. A former Indiana Hoosier, folks.
Yep, absolutely. Still at Stanford, is she not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a great gal, too. I met her.
Yeah, they beat this Indiana team by 30 this year.
That's right.
She put her stamp on it, baby. Don Fischer, can't thank you enough, buddy. We'll see you tonight.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. See you.
You betcha. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Looking forward to it. Dustin DePirick will join us from the Indy Star. Pascal Siakam, that trade's working out well. Plenty to talk about, and we'll do that when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home, did I go early?
No, you didn't. You were right on time.
Yeah, Don, boy, he doesn't like being social media-ized.
Oh, I mean, I don't like it either. If I didn't have to use it, I wouldn't.
No, I meant his comment.
Oh, yeah. I had a lot of people asking if it was even a real comment, which I didn't hear it, so I couldn't really confirm with anybody, but there was enough people talking about it to where it seemed like it was a real comment.
Is Dustin up next or after?
He's supposed to be next. I'm sending him a reminder right now in case he forgot for whatever reason.
Well, he's still out of town.
I haven't heard from him either way, so I'm not sure.
I'm sorry. Whoa, I drink my coffee. Yo, yo. Oh, I should have went and got. How much time I got?
50 seconds.
Oh, I can do that, baby. That's what happens when you pre-make it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You have any sound?
I'll get some since we're not going to have DePirick more than likely. I'm gonna guess. So just give me a couple minutes and I'll have some shortly. I'm sure they said some riveting things in the post game. All right, here we go.
Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Appreciate you being with us here on this January 22nd, Monday. Want to give a big shout out to Mark. Thank you, sir. Says he hoped this helps. He filled out the Nielsen ratings every year for radio and TV and listed us as a listener on 1380 The Fan in Fort Wayne. Hell yes. Appreciate you. I'll have to, that's deserving of a Pete. If you're on, make sure, Mark, you send us your info, email email us, and then you can email your information. That's deserving of a shirt right there. Absolutely. Let us know your shirt size and et cetera, et cetera. Greatly appreciate you. We appreciate everybody. We need to start having weekly drawings for shirts. How's that sound, John? He loves it.
Yeah, it's great. I'm trying to do too many things at once right now. Sorry, I couldn't answer that quickly.
I started laughing because I realized that. Oh, man, he's working on pulling some stuff up for us. Not throwing him under the bus there accidentally. Tara Vanderveer, as I mentioned, now with 1,203 wins. And coaching at Stanford, Stanford beat Indiana by 30 this year. But says one of her favorite analogies is that good basketball teams are like an orchestra. Everyone keeps the beat alive while a different soloist shines each night. Well, that certainly will produce a lot of wins, and she's got them. Currently at number 8, Stanford, with their 65-56 win over Pac-12 foe Oregon State. But that's 1,203 career wins now. That puts her ahead of Mike Krzyzewski as far as all-time wins. And I'm not being sexist, but there's a little difference there. But that is what it is. And I don't know, how far she is from retirement. She may put that at a spot that's unreachable, because there are very, very, very few people left, I think, that are going to be in a situation to do that. I'm surprised that there's not more women's coaches at the top 3, to be honest with you. People like Gina Auriemma. Admittedly, women's sports can be dominated more easily than the men's have been. We saw what UConn did for a good long time. That's not quite the same now, but former Hoosier. How about that? Played at Indiana. It's amazing how many Indiana connections there are to the greatest in this sport. I just mentioned Mike Krzyzewski, who was an assistant at Indiana, who was an assistant to Bob Knight at Army. So there you go. And Bob Knight was the former all-time leader in men's. He quit as soon as he got it, too. Tamar Bates, 36 points for Missouri. Although they're not exactly a great team. They're 13-21. No, that can't be right. They can't have played that many games this year already. Maybe he was 13 for 21. But he's averaging about 18 points a game over the last 6 games or so. Good to see him succeeding. It makes you wonder, what was the real reason? I know everybody says, he wanted to be closer to his daughter. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's quite true. That's the reason. This doesn't, but who knows? Appreciate everybody. It is up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, like I said earlier. All you guys from all over. We appreciate you, Kevin. John says he saw Clark play bumper pool with a fan. Yeah, she got knocked over or something. What happened to Caitlin Clark?
So here's what happened with that. So Ohio State defeated Iowa in overtime on their home floor, and the fans in attendance decided to storm the court, as you would imagine, against a team like Iowa. And as Caitlin Clark was trying to exit the floor, there was a fan coming on that it was kind of a stray fan. It wasn't like a crowd of people, but the fan and Caitlin Clark collided, and off first glance, it looks like the fan knocked Caitlin Clark over. But when you look at replays, Caitlin Clark puts her hands out and shoves the fan, or tries to shove her out of the way, and Caitlin Clark proceeds to fall to the ground as if she had just been hurt by the fan.
Flop? A flop?
Yeah, absolute flop. If you
Really?
haven't seen the video, yes.
Oh my. Here, actually, here it is right here. I'm trying to find it. Oh, I got to take that backwards. I saw it happen. Oh, I got to see this again.
Here, while you're looking that, I found some sound from Mike Woodson and Malik Renew. You can check that out, Jim, while I'm playing this for everyone. But
this was a complete. This is a complete. How do you not see each other coming here?
It's obviously when you're storming the floor, you're not really thinking about those around you, which is, a safety issue.
I get that, but this. All right, so the girl storming the court was just running with her hands up in the air. Actually, yes. She has her right hand in the air with her phone, I'm thinking. So I don't know how Caitlin Clark doesn't see the girl.
No, she did it on purpose, or at least fell down on purpose to make it seem like she was the victim in the situation.
I don't know if she fell on purpose. She probably didn't have to.
No, she didn't. I don't know what angle you're looking at, but there's 2 or 3 different angles that show her pushing her arms out as if she was shoving the fan out of the way, and then she lifts her arms in the air and falls down like she was just hit.
Is that how it's being taken?
It was originally taken like Caitlin Clark was the one who was hurt or being hit. But on further examination, if you will.
Here's what I love. Okay. The fan that gets hit looks exactly like somebody would look like if they got broadsided without expectation. They just go. Caitlin Clark gives it one of these. Gets hit, and then the head snap.
The head snap.
The momentary lapse head snap. So I can. Oh my God, that's as clear as day. With her doing the head snap, and I can see that because she's got her head up in the air as she's spinning. And
it's
I'm
just
like,
annoying. I feel like a lot of people were beginning to respect Caitlin Clark, and not that this takes away.
I was
from
one
how
of
good
them.
She is. Yeah, not that this takes away from how good she is as a player, because it doesn't. But when you're as good as you are, and you're on top of not only women's basketball, but you're one of the biggest stars in college basketball as a whole, you just can't do stuff like that.
Now, I will say this. This is going to change the rules right here, baby. This is going to be it. Now, this has been brought up prior, though, because Matt Painter has brought this up recently, because anytime somebody beats Purdue right now, there's a court storming. They did it in Indiana last year. They did it at Nebraska. And Matt says, there's something that's got to be looked at with that. And I'm like, okay, yes. Then there's a way to say, all right, to the opposing teams, look, this is probably going to be one of those situations. And if you're an opposing team, you don't linger. You don't worry about shaking hands in this game. You just get off the floor. And so why Caitlin Clark is running across through the middle of that, and she was cutting all the way across the floor. Just walk to the edge, walk along the edge, and then turn up. Because there aren't that many people running onto the floor. They're already on the floor. There's just one single person running who is not looking at Clayton. She's completely looking in this direction. So I don't know how in the world Caitlin Clark doesn't see this person, but yes, I'm going to agree with you. I think she did it on purpose now. And with the obvious flop, because your head doesn't do that what she just did.
It's just a bad look for somebody who's as good as she is at the sport.
But she's not going to. I don't know if that's how it's going to be taken.
Yeah, and obviously they're going to want to protect their stars. So I mean, who knows?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to change the rules, baby.
Yeah. Let's hit up this Mike Woodson sound and some Malik Renew sound before we get to our hard break here in a few minutes and get to our second hour. But here's Mike Woodson with comments about the CJ Gunn flagrant foul against Wisconsin.
Well, again, in the heat of the battle, anything is liable to happen. I'm not happy about it. After looking at it, the kid put his head on his chest and he threw a semi-elbow. I don't think it was something hard that warrant being kicked out of the game. But again, I can't control that. He was kicked out, and from that point on, we just. I thought we were playing pretty good. We gave up it was a 16-2 or 4 run at that point. They went off on a tremendous run and we couldn't get back.
I agree that he was baited into this, CJ was, and I agree that it wasn't. It was just a chicken wing. It was not an elbow like to the head. It was not a backwards. The worst kind, a backwards elbow. That's where you really do some damage. It was just a get off me.
But again, kind of similar to the Caitlin Clark thing. I can't remember the Wisconsin player's name. He really sold it to the referees.
Oh, absolutely.
And they were right in front of the bench.
I'm not disagreeing, and I'm not saying it's okay that what CJ did. You can't do that stuff. Just push him away. If you don't want money, push him off. Get off me, dude. Because they would have went back and looked at that and said, oh, okay, well, he was just getting him off of him. But throwing that to the head, even though it was not, it was no harder than me hitting myself right there. Trust me. But you can sell that, and he did. But Indiana has put itself in a position right now with 2 flagrant fouls in such a short period of time. That starts to show frustration. That's the showing of just a team that's, well, you heard Don say it, a team that's kind of discombobulated. They're not together. And it's not that they don't like each other. It's not about that. I don't know what it is. I wish I did. I don't pretend to be smart enough to know that, but they are definitely not on the same page. The offense is not on the same page. I'm not sure the defense is on the same page. The entire team is just not on the same page. And, Don talked about it being, a big emphasis on the players, and I agree with that. But what I also think is there is a gigantic responsibility from the top down to set the tone, to set what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. My dad was not the greatest parent in the world as far as doing the right things. But let me tell you, I knew what in the hell I couldn't do. I knew better than there were certain things I knew that I damn well was not going to do because I was going to get it. So I knew that. So that was set. And I think that was a good thing. Also, John, you got Malik Renew.
Yeah, let's hit our break, and then we'll hit Malik Renew on the beginning of our second hour, okay?
We will do just that. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in the Market for a home in the Indianapolis area. You need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Check it out. Contact her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
See, Brian says soccer is creeping its way into basketball. I tell you what, I don't watch a ton of soccer, but I attend a lot of live games because we have a team where I live. And I see way more flopping in basketball nowadays than I do in soccer, especially over exaggerated flopping.
Yep. Oh, nice. Caden Allen was beyond grateful to receive an offer from the University of Indiana.
University of Indiana.
Whew. That's an aggravating. I
don't know why. Yeah. I mean, I know why it's aggravating because it shows they don't know better. But
do you ever hear anybody else make that mistake?
Now, if they don't live around here, then that's why they're making that mistake.
You don't ever see that mistake. All right. Do you ever see that mistake made on any other school?
Oh, I have. Yes.
Like who?
Excuse me. I feel like with Illinois, sometimes they get it backwards. They'll say Illinois University or Michigan University instead of University of Michigan. What else is there?
Well, I'm sure he was.
I think it's pretty common people to say Michigan University instead of University of Michigan.
I don't think so.
Travis Miller is going to join us at 10 o'clock. So this will be the last open, not the last open segment. We'll be open again here, and then Travis will come on, and then we'll have one more segment open at the end. Dude, I'm tired. I got to quit betting on Dusty May. Every time I bet on Florida Atlantic, they freaking screw me.
I was trying. There were several people that were corrected him. Indiana University, but you'll know for sure once you commit. Someone please advise him that his scholarship and NIL will be from Indiana University. Man, let's see. Kara commented, I'm an alum of IU, and my mom wrote my deposit to the University of Indiana. I died of embarrassment, but she assured me they would cash the check.
Here we go. Remember, we got Malik Renew still. Living.com. That's mystonesliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by The Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. I just relaxed. It was incredible not having to Indiana played on Friday night, so didn't have to. It was wild not having to work all weekend. I loved it. I'm not going to lie to you. Unfortunately for the Hoosiers on Friday night, they traveled to Madison, Wisconsin, and could not get the deal done, losing 91-73, giving up 91 points. They scored 50, I can't remember, 53 points or whatever in the second half. Indiana did, and lost by 12. As Todd said in the postgame show, you can't score 50-something points in the second half of a game and lose by 12. But that was because they scored half of that in the first half. man, his team gets off to some slow starts. And it's just a disconnect, it seems like. But here's Malik Renew after the ball game and what he had to say.
I mean, we got to figure out a way to be one on the court. Offense was really, I feel like, kind of disconnected in some ways, but I mean, we're going to fix that, get it right.
Not a whole lot of words there, but I've tried a couple different ones, but it seemed like there's just a lot of loss for words at how discombobulated it is with this team right now.
Well, but the thing that is bothersome is everybody is now starting to say, we got to figure out. Man, you're kind of deep into. There are guys that have played for Mike Woodson for the entire 3 seasons that he's been here now. Why is it still got to figure out? What is it that you have to figure out now? What is it that can't be figured out that has gone on for this entire time? That's a question that we'd like to ask. Why can't they, quote unquote, get over the hump? Which hump? By the way, there seem to be multiple humps. But it's a lot of the same old answers. And people complain that the media doesn't ask questions. There's more to it than that. But I think that there have been times where questions have been asked and the answers were not the answers to the questions. So, mea culpa, put my hands up. There's only so much you can do on this side. I think we all see what we see. And I don't know how it's going to be acceptable for you keep hearing, 3 years ago, well, wait till somebody gets their own players. Wait till they get their own players. Yeah, you're 3 years in. You got your own players. You got the players that you wanted because you've kept them. You haven't recruited over them. Those opportunities are there. You look at, say, Boston College. Rick Pitino's first season there. 10 brand new players. 10.
It's St. John's, by the way, not Boston College.
God dang it, I knew that.
And to be fair, I will say this. That St. John's team, even though Rick Pitino brought in exactly who he wanted, that St. John's team is not really anything to write home about. Let me go see what their record is.
But they lost to UConn by 4. They're more than competitive. Like right now,
Indiana's had their moments of being competitive, and I'm not trying to take up for them because I know this is a mess right now.
Are you talking about when they had an All-American in Trace Jackson Davis? Yes, they were to a degree.
St. John's is 12-7. That's the exact same record as Indiana, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but guess this is Rick Pitino's first year with 10 brand new players.
That doesn't matter though. It's Rick Pitino. You're saying my point being, you're talking about Rick Pitino as if he's done some great job at St. John's in year one, when he's not done anything to write home about, in my opinion. You can bring in whoever you want. If the results don't pan out, then it doesn't matter what you've done.
Well, I know one of the losses is to UConn by 4.
I think bragging about how much you lose to a team by is also not anything to really write home.
It's not bragging. It's just pointing out. I'm just pointing out the facts. It's not bragging. I'm just saying, here are some facts. He's using 10 brand new players. So he put an entire team together, and they are more than competitive. They're not getting blown out by 20 points a game by these teams. The teams they've lost to, well,
they lost by 15 to Seton Hall. That's one blowout. They lost to Boston College at home by 6. I don't know how good Boston College is this year. They're 8-3.
See?
They were 8-3 at the time. Then they had lost to Dayton by 7. Lost to Michigan. Lost to a bad Michigan team by 16 who Indiana beat.
Early in the season, I believe.
Either way, though, I think Indiana, maybe Indiana will lose to St. John's based on coaching alone, just because Rick Pitino is that good of a coach.
I agree with that.
Rick Pitino we're just talking about how
the
good
best
this team
coach
is
in the
in
game.
general. It's nothing to write home about what Rick Pitino's done. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because you've mentioned it several times over the past week.
I think that when you take over a team that's got 10 brand new players and you can be successful, that's an accomplishment.
But is 12-7 successful though? That's all I'm trying to say. I don't think being.
What were they last year? What were they last year?
St. John's was. I don't know if last year they were decent, but a few years ago they had a guy.
What doesn't matter. A few years ago, what were they?
Whatever that guy's name was.
Last year, the year prior to coming in. I'm not saying that. My point is, when you're in year 3, the people that said they expected a fall off, I'm like, expected it from what? How in the hell can there be a fall off in year 3? That gives you've had that length of time to set the kind of roster you want, to get the kind of people you want and need via recruiting and the portal.
St. John's was 18-15 last year, just since you were asking.
Okay, 3 games over 500. We'll see what they do this year. But my point being, that doesn't seem to be an issue. They're competitive with in games that they've lost. This team is not competitive in the games they lose. They just get blown out. And is that coaching? Is it players? Is it the system is broken down? I can't specifically say what it is, but I can say there's a problem. It's not, Indiana should not be, again, Ken Palm is not the know-all be-all. He's got to pick to win 1 game the rest of the year. And right now,
really? That is insane. Yeah. I'm not saying he's wrong, but
1 game out of the last 12. That's my point. He's got him projected to win 1 game out of the last 12. It was 1 out of the last 13. Projected him to lose to Wisconsin.
Is it Penn State at home? I'm assuming.
Exactly. And that would
make their final record before the Big Ten tournament. They would be 13 and man, why can't I do math on that? 13 and 18. They'd be 13 and 18.
All right. Well, that's not acceptable. And let's say they win 3 games and they're 500 at 15 and 15 or whatever. Is that acceptable in year 3? When you're recruiting 5-star athletes that are being paid 5-star NIL money?
No, I totally agree with that. That would not be acceptable.
That's my point, is there is just simply no excuse, no reason, acceptable reason in the world for Indiana to be where they are in year 3. None. And why would that give anybody expectations that it's going to just be on a meteoric rise after that?
The one thing that you can hope for, I guess, if you're a fan, is that Mike Woodson learned his lesson of how to recruit in the offseason with the portal. And that's just because the biggest sin that he committed was not filling out that final scholarship and finding somebody else to play at the guard position, because they're so depleted at guard and have no leadership. You could have found somebody who is a 1-year player, and it didn't have to be. The problem is everybody, I guess I know Mike Woodson swung and missed at Dalton Connect and a few other guys, like Chris Ledlam from Harvard, and probably a few others that I'm not thinking of right now. But if you can't get the big boys, find somebody from the MAC or the Sun Belt Conference USA that has 1 or maybe even 2 years of eligibility and give them that chance. And again, maybe he just didn't do a good enough job at selling those kinds of players because maybe he was promising that Xavier Johnson would get too much playing time or that kind of thing. We don't know exactly how those conversations went down, but he messed up in one way or another in selling his vision and or playing time to these guys, and that's why he couldn't fill the scholarship. And that's ultimately what causes or what has caused most of the issues this season. You can't leave a vital scholarship open under any circumstance.
I think that there are certain people that are being recruited and all the eggs are being put into those baskets, and it's not necessarily always the right basket. Number one, Braden Smith, for example, Purdue starting guard, not recruited by this Indiana group at all. They had zero interest, and there was interest on the other side. Drew says Ole Miss got buried by Auburn. I did not see that score.
The Auburn's I don't want to say they're a sleeper for the Final Four, but they can make a deep run simply by how high-powered their offense is.
I don't know if you have to use. I don't know if you can use the word sleeper.
I don't think they're ranked very high, though, are they?
I don't know what they are currently. The new rankings coming out here.
That's true. Come out today.
So we'll see that. But they've been up. They've been up in the top 10. So anybody that has been or is in the top 10, they're not a sleeper. Because there is no it team. There is no the team, at least not right now. I mean, it's not Purdue. Purdue is hard to beat, but they are beatable. Kansas, obviously beatable. Arizona, obviously beatable. UConn might be the best team in the country again. We will see, but it's going to take, winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament. It's hard to do because you're going to play against probably 4 or 5 different styles. Number one, styles that you don't see during the season. That's what makes the NCAA tournament as fun as it is. But there's no guarantee. This year, it's I think as wide open as it has been. Last year, of course, we saw San Diego State and Florida Atlantic make the Final Four shockingly. Teams that just you would not have thought. I don't know that we see that again. And a big shout out to Mark. He filled out I think I said that already, but grateful.
Yeah,
put
you
us
mentioned
on his Nielsen ratings. Always worth the second mention. Appreciate you, man, for putting us on the listening ratings there.
Break.
We've got to take a break. Travis Miller joins us next. We'll talk more about Big Ten basketball as the schedule continues this week. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Morning, Travis.
Morning. And boy, if you want takes on the IU basketball coaching situation right now, I can give them to you.
Fire away.
I was ready to go on Friday, man, but it's been an interesting week because the same people that were all about what Woodson was building and whatnot the last 2 years in the Purdue mentions and everything just turned on him Tuesday night. And I'm like, here we go. It's the same stage every time of every IU coaching cycle. It's a buildup. This is the guy that he's going to rebuild it. And then if he hasn't done it by year 3 or they're starting to slide in year 3, everything comes crashing down. And it's just, oh man, you see the same thing everyone. It was the same with, I think Sampson gets a bit of a pass since he was fired in the middle of it, but Archie, Tom Crean, Mike Davis, all of them, It's the same cycle every time, and we're getting right there on schedule with Woodson. So.
Yeah, well, and this is the whole different scenario because now you've got the portal. You didn't have that before, nor NIL. And Indiana does not suffer from NIL, that I promise you. And that's part of what makes it harder for Indiana fans to digest because they do fine in NIL and landing elite players, but it's about landing the right players. I say this all the time. You got to have the right people in the right position. I don't care if it's running a restaurant or a basketball team. If you don't have the right people in the right positions, it don't mean SHIP.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I can save some of these for when we're actually on air, but man, I am an outsider just looking at the situation, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll save it.
Like he's doing a lot of things that I feel like I'm a little more like I get mad about the losses and stuff, but I'm not calling for Woody's head right now. I understand that things aren't going well, but at the same time, you can't just go from coach to coach with one bad season. You take this for what it is and you hope that it improves, but you can't just move on from somebody after one bad season.
Right. I mean, and sometimes the cycle goes a little bit faster. Like, it was pretty clear Archie wasn't the guy when he drops his first game by 20-plus points to Indiana State at home.
All right, here we go, guys. Just a few seconds. Here we go.
Go to AndyMoreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club and Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. Thanks a lot for being with us. Appreciate you very much. Joining us now, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. To talk more about Big Ten basketball, as it is going to be a busy week. No games on the docket for today or tonight, but beginning tomorrow, you've got league-leading Wisconsin heading to Minnesota, which expected to be a win for Wisconsin, but Minnesota is not your grandpa's Minnesota team anymore. Ohio State has to travel to Nebraska, which there's another game that's two teams that are probably equal in talent, but Nebraska being at home. Michigan traveling to West Lafayette, although Michigan has been much improved, Travis, here of late. They're playing a lot better basketball than they were when they didn't have Juwan Howard, but I don't see him having anything in the way of enough for Purdue and West Lafayette especially.
Yeah, I feel pretty good for Purdue in every home game remaining, just because Mackey is such a force multiplier for them. Wisconsin can probably give them a pretty good game at the end of the season. That's the final home game of the year. You never discount Michigan State, but Tom Izzo's teams have really, really struggled in West Lafayette. I can't even remember the last time that Michigan State won at Purdue. So, but you got that. You've got Indiana's still got to come. I believe Northwestern's got to come. Got to be a little bit wary of them since they have beaten Purdue. But Mackey is Mackey, and this is a team that always it brings it at home every night. I think outside of the 2020 season when Purdue was probably going to miss the tournament, Purdue's lost like 7 games in Mackey Arena in like the last 9 seasons or so where they've made the tournament. So it is just a hard place for teams to come in and play. And I look for that to continue the rest of the season.
Without question, that usually is the case when you've got the run going that Purdue has right now. And other teams that are chasing them, like you said, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's going to be a tough out for this tournament title champion regular season, because they're a team that we saw they just beat Indiana, but they just don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves, and I'm not saying that they're gonna that is going to allow them to go to, say, West Lafayette and win, but they don't have to do that. They just have to win the games that they need to win. They're right now with the one loss leading the Big Ten, and there are many games ahead, I know, but hey, they're going to give Purdue, I think, all they want in a run for this Big Ten regular season championship.
Yeah, I tend to think so too. And I kind of look at it as an equation of you get 10 home games, 10 away games. You win your 10 home games, you win 5 on the road, you're going to be right there for the conference championship. If you drop a game at home, it almost feels like you lose 2 games. So how well Wisconsin plays in Madison, especially when they've got Purdue coming there next week, that's going to be interesting to see. I know they've had some close calls. I know Northwestern almost got them a couple weeks ago, but they always play well up there. And Purdue has done well in Madison historically. There's usually been some pretty good games up there between the two teams, but that first game is going to decide a lot whether this is still going to be a race, really. If Purdue goes up to Madison, wins that game, it's almost a coronation time, I think, for Purdue, because I don't see them dropping a home game without another team playing just out of their minds, really.
Illinois is another team that we all thought was going to be there at the top, and they have been. They lost Terrence Shannon Jr. Now he's back, and in his first game back, they beat Rutgers. It was at home for Illinois, but an 86-63 win over Rutgers. They play yet another game coming up. I believe that is on Thursday. Where they're on the road at Northwestern before hosting Indiana. Indiana plays nothing in between those. Illinois will play 3 games in the same period. Indiana plays 0.
That's a weird oddity with the schedule. And I know the 20-game Big Ten schedule, that's what happens sometimes. I know as a Purdue fan, I'm always already looking forward to the fact that I believe Purdue gets 6 of their 10 road games out in the first 10 Big Ten games of the season. So when you get the back half of that schedule, you get to play at home 6 times out of 10. That's great right there. So, and you talk about the unbalanced schedule too. I think that's something that Wisconsin has an advantage. I believe they only play Illinois once. They still have one more game left against Michigan State. But you put them next to each other, Wisconsin's got the easier schedule the rest of the way. Now, they did lose at Penn State. That was kind of a shocker, kind of not a shocker, because Penn State always seems to knock off one ranked team a year at home. But, I would say Wisconsin's got the edge with schedule-wise against Purdue, but Purdue has the edge talent-wise. And those 2 games against each other straight up are going to be really big Big Ten games. And then you still have Purdue has to go to Illinois at the end of the season. I don't think Wisconsin has to go to Illinois later on. So that's not going to be an easy game, especially if Terrence Shannon Jr. is playing in it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun rest of the season, because teams like Maryland, who traditionally have not been good on the road, they get a road win a week or so ago. So that has obviously given them a lot more confidence. They have to travel to Iowa this week, which probably won't be fun. Illinois at Northwestern, that's going to be a fun game to watch on Wednesday, because Northwestern is still one of the teams at the top who is playing good basketball.
Yeah, I think you've got some separation now. I think you've got your real contenders are Purdue, Wisconsin, and Illinois. I think Nebraska and Northwestern are really, really good teams that can beat anybody on their home court. Obviously, both of them have beaten Purdue. Even though Northwestern lost by 30 in Champaign earlier this year, I can see them giving Illinois a game this week. Nebraska is always tough at home. They've got a really great home crowd. And then you've got a couple other teams that are, I would say, a little bit below that. I can't figure out Ohio State yet, where I want to put them. Minnesota is one of those teams. They are significantly better this year. They've already won more games this year, both in the Big Ten and overall, than they did last year. So they, give them a decent home court advantage up in the barn. And then Michigan State just, I think Michigan State is out of the Big Ten race. But at the same time, they've got the talent. They've got Tom Izzo. they're going to beat somebody. You're going to have to go through them. You cannot count them as a win the rest of the year. So those are kind of the top teams up there, and we'll see how the rest of it goes. And then you've still got Indiana, who is talented, who has Assembly Hall as a nice home court, and they're going to do something there. They always seem to do something there.
Well, Indiana right now 4-4 in the conference, and that's going to give them. You look at the home games, so that means out of the 8, so you've still got 12 games left to play, 6 home games left to play, most likely, which they are going to need to win all of them, and that would just put them at 10 wins. Because I don't think anybody has a snowball's chance in hell of making the NCAA tournament with a sub 500 Big Ten record this year.
I agree, and that's one of my pet peeves is whenever any major conference team gets into the NCAA tournament with a losing conference record. I hate it. I don't think it should be allowed. To me, the 9th place team in the Big Ten at 9-11 has no business getting an at-large bid over some, mid-major team that might have gone, 28-3, but dropped their conference title game in like double overtime or something. Give me more mid-majors. Give me more low majors that have had your great season. We don't need to see a 9-10 and 8-12 Big Ten team in the NCAA tournament, or an ACC team that goes 7-10 or whatever it is there.
It's all about the money, baby. It's all about the money, keeping the money in the big conferences.
Yeah, you got to get those TV shares and everything for the conferences, but there's some years that you can maybe make an argument. I know the 2020 tournament got canceled and everything, but that was a year where you had 12 Big Ten teams that at least had a chance at an at-large bid going into the Big Ten tournament. I know Indiana played on one of the 2 Big Ten tournament games that got played on the Wednesday night, and they had a shot. They might have gotten in that year. So who knows? But it's just a personal pet peeve. I don't think if you can't get to at least 500 in your conference, you don't deserve to be an at-large team. And if you want to cry about it, go out and win the automatic bid. Win your conference tournament. Then you can get in.
Here's an ironic stat, though. As of right now, out of the 14 Big Ten teams, only 4 of them have a winning record in the conference. Only 4.
And that'll And that'll even out as the year goes on. I know last year was kind of a strange year because Purdue still won the conference by 3 games, even though they lost 5 times. And I think that just showed how even the league was beneath Purdue. And as we saw, Purdue maybe wasn't that good last year. And maybe they did take advantage of a weaker Big Ten. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. I don't think the league is as strong as it has been in recent seasons, but you still have some good teams. And I think, Purdue's obviously a national title contender. Purdue's playing so well right now, I'm starting to believe. So that should scare everybody.
Is Illinois one of those teams that can kind of shock people that because they haven't been bad. Even when they lost Terrence Shannon Jr., they weren't bad.
No, I think that they're a team that can make some noise in March. I still think that they are in the conference race just because they've got that home Purdue game in their back pocket, and you never know. If Purdue comes into that game with 4 or 5 losses in conference play, that's not impossible. That's going to be a good game. And then Purdue still has to play Wisconsin twice. If they drop one of those before the Illinois game, they still have to host Wisconsin in the final game of the regular season. So I think those are your 3 best teams in the conference right now, and they're the ones that have the best chance of making some noise in the NCAA tournament.
We will certainly find out. What is up next for you?
Well, we've got Michigan this week, and then Purdue goes to Rutgers on Sunday. So those are the big things we got going on. My writer Jace Jellison, he covered yesterday's Purdue-Indiana women's game, which is becoming quite a nice little rivalry. I know Indiana has dominated that of late, but Katie Geralds is working hard to turn Purdue's program around, and a lot of people are really high on what she's doing. And then one of the things I posted about today, Purdue wrestler Matt Ramos, knocked off his third number one ranked wrestler in his weight class in the last 365 days. He is number 2 in his weight class. He'll be back at number 1 this week, and he's fun to watch for, if you're looking for some non-traditional sports out there, that college sports that get a good following. He just knocked off the number 1 ranked wrestler from Iowa, and he's got a real shot of winning the national title this year.
Yeah, great. Big Ten, obviously, great wrestling conference. Indiana just knocking off, I think it was Rutgers that was ranked. Indiana is wild because it was 5 years ago when they were just the bottom of the pile, and they are now a program that has been ranked for the last couple of years, and that's an accomplishment in this conference, because let me tell you, you've got Iowa, you've got Purdue, Penn State, that are just two of the tops in the country year in and year out. It's crazy how good those schools are, those programs are. But this league has always been a great wrestling league. Not that we talk about it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the latest rankings, the 10 or 11 teams are in the top 25, and Purdue's not one of them because they're a very young team, but they have one of the best wrestlers in the country. So, this is a great league for wrestling. It's always fun to see those names come through the tournament, and Iowa is just a national powerhouse. It's a lot like Big Ten volleyball, honestly, where you have 7, 8, 9 teams in the top 25 every week, and then you've got some that are just above even that, and that's kind of where Iowa and Penn State are. They're so much better than everybody else.
Yeah, you got Penn State at the top, tied with Ohio State and Penn State right now. Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, all tied with the lead. Rutgers right behind them at 3-1, as is Michigan, and then Nebraska and Indiana. So for Indiana to be behind those schools, mind-boggling in wrestling. It's wild to see different schools that have traditionally not done well in certain sports, and then it's about getting the right coach. Amazing how that works. It's amazing how that works in sports. When you have the right coach, things seem to go well.
Oh,
the irony. Oh, the irony.
Is this where you want me to go off about Mike Woodson? Because I can do that.
No, but you're free to do that. Oh, that's right. You said that there are lots of takes that go right ahead.
Well, as an outsider, that obviously I'm followed Purdue all my life, and you follow Indiana as a result in that, because Purdue and Indiana are always competing for recruits and everything. The Mike Woodson saga is progressing right along as Archie Miller's tenure did, as Tom Crean's later tenure did, as Mike Davis's. It's all the hype. He gets hired. Archie Miller didn't have this, but you have the early success. But about year 3, year 4, if the banner 6 doesn't look like it's coming, everybody starts to turn. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. A lot of people were very high on Mark Woodson coming into this season. He had beaten Purdue twice, which, Archie Miller never beat Purdue once, or he beaten Purdue 3 times, excuse me. And he'd gotten Indiana back to the tournament. He was recruiting the 5 stars. Everything was coming along. And now that chemistry and that team itself is not coming together, you're starting to see the turn. You're starting to see Dusty May, the photoshops with him in a red sweater and everything. And, the other joke is all they got to do is call Brad Stevens and then he'll come running to Bloomington and everything. And it's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You cannot get stuck in this cycle where you are cycling through a coach every 4 or 5 years because they don't get to a Final Four or win the national title. There is not an automatic win ball coach out there. If Indiana went and threw the bag at Jay Wright right now, he's a great coach. I would say he's probably the best coach not coaching right now. Is he automatically going to win in Bloomington? No. He's got to put that team together, and you got to be patient. You have to build a program. I mean, Purdue is where they are at because Matt Painter has been there almost 20 years. He has built this program. He has gotten the players he's wanted. He has gotten players to overachieve based on their recruiting stars and everything else, and they come together. He still has not made a Final Four because you have to put all those pieces together, and you still need some luck in March. You still need to be able to pull those games off in March, and it is frustrating as hell. I can see it frustrating from an Indiana perspective. It's frustrating from a Purdue perspective when Purdue has had all this regular season success, yet they are seeing the likes of George Mason, Butler, Wichita State, Loyola, VCU, these teams that just get hot for 4 games in March and they make it through to the Final Four when Purdue can't do it despite all the regular season stuff. So you got to build that program. You got to be able to be patient with the coach, let him build something, and you also got to have some luck. And you also can't keep turning the roster over. You're not going to get it done with one and done guys. Even Kentucky doesn't do that continuously. And they've arguably had the most success with just going one and done, one and done, one and done. And Indiana is not going to get there until they commit and are ready to build around a coach and build around some guys that buy into that philosophy and they buy in and fill those pieces. And yeah, you can get the occasional one and done guy that'll fill those other gaps and be that star. But in modern college basketball, you got to build. It's not automatic. You can't just roll 5 guys out there with a coach and expect to win. They have to work together. They have to build together. And you got to find that coach that can get the guys the right pieces in the right spot.
No question about that. And there's no doubt to what you're saying. I think that sometimes people look at the steps that are being taken to get to that point, and that is the question mark a lot of the times. And I think that's the questions that are being asked right now is while no one may have expected them to win a national championship this year or even a Big Ten title. I didn't. You expected more than what you're seeing from this team when you have the talent on it, that you have players that have come back that have been there that are veteran players. So there are certain expectations for them. Then you have guys that were on the team that you expected growth from. When you don't see that, that's an issue. And then the guys that you do bring in that are higher level guys, there's expectations for them. Kel'el Ware and Mackenzie Mbako. And while those guys have performed well this year, I think Malik Renew has performed well. He just come off of a game where he had 28 points because Kel'el wasn't there and he had to be the guy. But there are just other issues with the team that kind of continue to pop their head up. And I think that is what is nagging Indiana fans, the flagrant fouls. It's kind of there was always this thought of a lack of discipline on this team, and those kind of things start to bear it out a little bit. And when you're not a disciplined team, you're not going to win. Because if you're not disciplined, you're not together, you're not on the same page, and you're not all working towards the same goal. I don't know what that is or whether that is or not the case because I'm not in practice every day. So I can only use the games that I see as a barometer and the performances that are shown as a barometer. And I think Woodson hurt himself a little bit by being so dismissive about being questioned about his method of substitution patterns early on, or for the whole time, really, how he would use this hockey style substitution pattern of bringing 4 guys off the bench and taking virtually your entire starting lineup off the floor after, say, they built a 12-point lead against Auburn, and then watch that entire 12-point lead dissipate before putting the guys back in. And then being asked about it and being kind of indignant of refusing to answer the question when pushed on it. It's just, there's just, everything's not symbiotic right now. And I think that's a problem. You don't see that upward trajectory. It doesn't have to be like a rocket, but it should be upward. And I think this is a dip that nobody saw coming. I didn't.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I thought Indiana was going to be better this year, and just because they were building something, you get that talent, it's hard to be that bad. Now, is Mike Woodson a bad coach? I don't think so at all. I mean, he's proven he can get it done, and maybe he just needs a little bit more time. Maybe he needs one key guy. You mentioned the transfer portal earlier. Look how much better Purdue is adding a Lance Jones, a 4-year guy that was a starter at Southern Illinois.
They added one guy. Do you know how many guys?
Yeah, they added one guy.
And Indiana has an open scholarship while desperately needing another guard, and that's an issue that sticks out as well. When you have an open scholarship and you don't fill that, when you have a definite need, it's hard to ignore that.
Yeah, and especially when there are guys that can come in and fit the system. But that goes back to, you got to find the right guy that builds that culture to where somebody can come in and fit the system. This is year 3 for Mike Woodson. I mean, he's gotten Indiana to the tournament, but what else has he built? What consistency has he built? And it's a hard line to walk, especially in a program like Indiana that demands, that upward trajectory at all times.
One thing about this team is they are one of the youngest teams. If you take minutes played and all of that, they're not very a veteran team as much as we think they are, which it seems like they would be with Xavier Johnson, with Trey Galloway, with guys coming off the bench that have experience, and even the guys that they picked up on the portal, Peyton Sparks. He had experience. He's not a freshman. But yet they're still one of the younger teams playing, and they haven't played that much basketball together. Xavier Johnson hurt 2 years in a row. He hasn't really played that much of college basketball, and he hasn't played that much with this team. So they've got other things that are easy to not recognize that truly hurt them as a team, I think.
Yeah, and again, that's where that luck component comes in. You got to be able to have things come together. I look at Purdue in 2010. They were starting to come together with Lewis Jackson had an early season injury. I think it was his 7th or 8th game back is when Robbie Hummel went down. And that everything kind of fell apart from there. They still won the Big Ten, but mostly because they had a big lead in the conference from there. And so, there are so many factors that make it difficult that you can't just rely on one thing. And I think the biggest thing that Indiana needs right now is they just need some consistency. They need somebody that is going to get them to the tournament every year, is going to challenge for the Big Ten title, every 2 or 3 years. And then you might get lucky with the run. I mean, Mike Davis, look at the run he had in 2002. It was out of nowhere. They still got to the national title game. Tom Crean won 2 Big Ten championships in 4 years. Now, was he the all-time answer? No, but he did a great job in Indiana in however long he was there, and he was let go 2 years after he won, or the year after he won a Big Ten title. Where would Indiana be right now if they kept him? I have no idea, but at least they would have some of that consistency, and they might be more established and, might be in a better place, honestly.
Well, they'd be in a better place because they wouldn't have had Archie Miller, which was still one of the worst hires in the history of college basketball, in my opinion. I mean, seriously, that bad. But yeah, they would have been in a better position. And it's amazing that he was let go that quickly after winning a Big Ten championship. I mean, that might be a record. I'd have to go back and look, but that not just at Indiana, I mean, period. But that shows Indiana was buried because of the problems they faced after the Kelvin Sampson deal, and Tom Crean brought them all the way to a number 1 ranking, number 1 team in the country, which was amazing. But that's the thing. There was always that ride, and then it just became a roller coaster. And with Archie, it was more a house of horrors instead of a roller coaster. But it just seems like they've been on a roller coaster still to this. And that's what the fans are just wanting to see, something in an upward trend. And there's no reason for that not to happen at a program like Indiana, who has everything you want. They've got, first of all, they got one of the greatest fan bases. They have a great arena. They have great tradition. They have as good at NIL as there is in college basketball. So boom, you've got all the resources at your hands. And to see other schools that have none of that have success, it makes it very difficult for the fans. And I get it.
Yeah. And that goes back to my point in March is it's very frustrating to see a Miami come out of nowhere and make a Final Four with no program history. Now they got the NIL, they've got the transfers and everything, but after a while, you're like, okay, when are we going to get the lucky bounce? When are we going to get the big run? And both Indiana and Purdue are still waiting for that. That Indiana team that got to number 1, they were a legitimate title contender. They fell short because they had one bad game against Syracuse.
That's what happens when you try to change the offense the night before a game. Boy, shaking my head, but sad but true. Sad but true. Travis Miller with Boiler Upload. Make sure you give him a follow and keep up with all that's going on with the Boilers and much more. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks a lot. This one was fun. I enjoyed this one.
Absolutely. Well, I'll always try to have fun. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the oh. Yeah, that would have pissed me off. I'm not gonna. I probably would have said, "Get off me." I probably would have just shoved his head. Said, "Dude, get that F off me." I mean, there's no reason for you to be putting not in a timeout situation. And I'm not saying what he did was okay, but. Yeah, that's worthy of a technical. It's not like I said, it was just a shove. Get off me, man. But the thing is, it's the rule. It's above the head, I think, and all that crap. But he was too obvious about it. The elbow, a chicken wing, man, that sticks out. You just, what I would have done? I would have popped him right in the chin when he's got his head on me. You give him one of those. You pop him right in the chin and hope his tongue is sticking out and he won't do that anymore. Just saying. John, what do you think of that?
Well, I might have missed part of what you said about the elbow.
I said instead of giving him elbow, you should have just reached down so his body's in front of him and just popped him in the chin.
I mean, I wouldn't have retaliated, period. I might have said something.
Well, that's because you're better than we are.
I'm just not very confrontational. It doesn't mean I'm better than you are. I'm just not. I would never pick a fight with anybody because I know I'd lose.
Well, that's not me picking a fight. He picked it. He stuck his head on me.
I probably should have been like F off or something. It wouldn't have been like a shout. I just would have been like, F off, man. All right, here we go.
Chop Shock Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Yesterday was NFL football, of course. You're ready for I guess it's the conference championships now, right?
That's right. In the AFC, we've got the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Lamar against, how about, first of all, let's talk about that. Lamar Jackson against your boy, the Chiefs, and why am I can't
Patrick
think
Mahomes and Travis Kelce and
Mama
Taylor
Holmes.
Swift.
Oh, don't say that. See, just don't. But these are two of the most dynamic quarterbacks ever in NFL, to be honest with you. I look at Lamar and I laugh because I remember when he was in college and that coach at Wake Forest said that he's a joke, that he has no chance of ever making it to the NFL. Well, he's already been the MVP and now he's
twice.
And so has he already played in a Super Bowl yet?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, so a shot. Although this is going to be a tough way to get there, but man,
and I'll say this too. A lot of people don't like this take. I feel like if Patrick Mahomes wins another Super Bowl this early in his career, I mean, he'll be on a collision course to eventually hit the Tom Brady, mountain, if you will. And I'm not saying he's going to be that good in the long run, but he's certainly on a trajectory at this current moment to be as good of a quarterback and essentially maybe even be the second or best quarterback of all time if he's able to continue to play like this throughout the rest of his career.
Patrick Mahomes is on a collision course with a national championship.
There you go.
The only variable is time.
And on the other end of things, in the NFC, the Lions taking on the Niners. But heck, the Lions.
Oh, I thought it was the Lions and the Christians.
What? I'm not getting the reference there again.
Oh, come on, man. The Lions
like
and the
lying?
Christians?
Like the liars?
The Lions and the Christians, like back in gladiator times at the Coliseum.
Okay. But yeah, the Lions won their first playoff game a couple weeks ago for the first time since the 90s, and now they have a chance to play for a Super Bowl if they can get past the 49ers, which I thought the 49ers were going to lose to the Packers the other night, but unfortunately that didn't happen.
Hey, that was a good game, but the Packers just making too many mistakes.
Yeah. And Jordan Love, he's had a good run so far, kind of stepping into the role this year without Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and I guess he's going to continue to be their guy for the foreseeable future.
He's the son of Buddy Love. Did you know that?
I did not.
You might want to Google Buddy Love.
Google him. Does he win? Is
Google.
he a winner?
Oh, he's a winner. All right, baby. Oh, Buddy Love. One of the great movie characters of all time. Absolutely. I mentioned Tamar Bates, 36 points from Missouri over the weekend. He's been averaging 18 points a game. Ironically, plays with Sean East, who played at New Albany High School with Romeo Langford. It's just ironic how things just throughout the last 5 years or whatever have transpired. Crazy to see that. Indiana, is this a team that doesn't have discipline, is not afraid of discipline? I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I don't think what CJ Gunn did was malicious. He got baited into something, and you see it happen all the time in football. Who gets caught? Who gets penalized? Who's going to draw the flag? The second guy. Every time. It's the second guy. And you have to know that, but you also have to know you got to be aware of your circumstances. You're standing out on the court, nobody around you, nothing to hide you, right in front, literally 2 feet away from the coaches, and who quickly jumped up and pointed it out and had the officials over at the monitor.
1 minute.
I hate that CJ's is kind of getting a bad rap for that, which it was just a dumb thing to do. It wasn't malicious, but hey, big thanks to Greg Rakestraw as always from the ISC Sports Network. Make sure if you want to keep up with what's going on in the Hoosier land area, sports wise, you can do it with those guys. Don Fischer, of course, the man, the voice of the Hoosiers, who tonight will be at Chop Shop here in Bloomington for Inside Indiana Basketball with Mike Woodson. The ladies, of course, before that, Terry Morin is there as well. But 7:05, the men's show is up and running. I will be there, so I'll say hello to you if you're there. Tomorrow, looking forward to being back at it, of course, with Mike DeCourcy, as well as Chronic Hoosier. And anybody else that I'm missing, John?
Michael Nizelak should be
Mr. Michael Nizelak from the Bloomington Herald Times. Looking forward to talking to him as well. It's been a great one. Cannot tell you how much I enjoy you guys and appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be here, because we do not take it for granted. Big thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.